Home teams win all of Game 1s across the NBA's opening round of the playoffs. Which team has the most to panic that is the underseed here? Because when the top seeds all win, obviously Game 1s, they always get skewed. Sometimes we have blowouts, and then the team that loses Game 1 ends up winning the entire series. But most of the time, it is a team that maybe catches the home team on the chin, and there's a refocus. This is all the home teams won, and most of them in blowout fashion.
Yeah, and it's dumb and cliche, but it's true. A series doesn't start until a team wins on another team's home court. That's how it goes.
Yep.
There's a reason. I think it's something like 81% of home teams win. It's like it's an egregious number when you're talking about the favorite seeds. It's a dumb number. But it's just how it goes. In basketball, it's just a limited number of players in the field on the court, and when you've got the better player at home, it's just how it goes. But I'm terrified for Phoenix. Because Oklahoma City, we all know kind of going in, they're missing a rebounder. They're missing a big body. And Chet was very, very good, but they're playing small and they can get kind of bumped and bullied around, and guys can get physical with them, and that showed. Jonas Valanciunas had 20 rebounds. They were very physical with them. Larry Nance Jr. went out there, was very physical with them. But you know what else the Thunder have? 5 years of runway.
Yeah. And
all of the picks on the planet to go make changes. The Suns are tapped. There's no path forward for them. It's now or never.
They already had Booker. They have KD. They have Bradley Beal. Nurk is a value for a big, but he's taken a big chunk too. Where do they get better? How do they get better?
They don't. There's already been murmurs about Kevin Durant getting traded in the offseason.
Oh.
And basically them having to admit, well, we screwed this one up, and trying to recoup, finding some team is like, could we be the ones that take Kevin Durant?
Okay, but if we take what they are in that game where they just get absolutely mopped by the Timberwolves in Game 1, Devin Booker has been good in the playoffs.
Yeah.
In his career.
Yeah.
In his career, he's been really
good.
Damn good.
Yeah.
If he shows up again, if he shows back up and doesn't have that disappearing act like we saw on Saturday, how do we feel about Phoenix then? Because it just kind of seemed like there was a point, and I think that this is where the panic button gets mashed, is that the veteran-laden teams and veteran playoff coaches, it's choose your battles, right? It's a 7-game series. It kind of felt like they were like, we ain't going to win this battle. Let's try to win the war. If they come back and they steal Game 2 and Booker is who we think he is and know him to be in the playoffs, does that change your mind about Phoenix in this series?
No, because they've been missing something all season long, and I don't think they're just going to find it. Now, where they might be able to find it is Minnesota not having it. Anthony Edwards, dude. Undoubtedly. Jaden McDaniels getting better. Rudy Gobert, for all the people out there who are like, oh, you can play him off the floor. No, you can't. This is in 2019. Also, you couldn't play him off the floor because that Utah team sucked without him defensively. That's the God's honest truth. But you look at this and you still go, they've got a $56 million man who had an okay game. But his okay game in Karl Anthony Towns is still one of his best playoff games because he's been an abject disaster in his playoff career.
And he was 19, 7, and 4, and 5 of 9 from the field, so over 50% from the field. But I think that this may be where you look at and you go, all right, is the strides that Anthony Edwards took this season and where he's at now, taking that pressure off of Cat having to be number one and carry a team, how much does that help him between the ears of performing? Because if you get a performance like that from Karl Anthony Towns, you're going to win a lot of games. You're going to win a lot of playoff games.
Well, think about this.
But there are the ones against teams like Phoenix where if they put the clamps down on Ant Edwards for a game and he doesn't go for 33 and he isn't 14 of 24 from the field, Karl Anthony Towns got to be a hell of a lot better.
And then here's the thing. Cat was 5 of 9, which the 8 of 8 is matters more to me because it shows he was willing to put his head down and go to the rim.
Play with physicality, he is cowered into the corner. But I also think that may be a little bit to the point of, hey, if he ever went down and he wasn't like available, the Timberwolves were hosed.
Mm-hmm.
Now with Anthony Edwards, it's like it frees you up a little bit. There's not as many bodies and
Mike
eyes
Conley
on
was
you.
2 of 12 and they walked out of this game.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you look at the total shots, I mean, it's skewed because of the free throws. But Naz Reid took 10 shots. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 12 shots. Edwards, 24. Conley, 12. Cat, 9. But you have 8 more possessions shooting-wise, so to speak, from the 8 free throws. So you give him, let's give him 4 more shots.
Okay, where are we at with so you have Phoenix number 1. I think if we're sitting there, I do agree. Because of what you said about Phoenix, there's been something off all season long. And everybody's like, well, their big three just haven't played together. They haven't had a lot of time together. Well, now you're saying they still look disjointed and it's playoff time.
You
can't be disjointed.
No, and they're missing something, and they have been missing something.
How do you feel about the Pacers-Bucks series is one that everybody had circled because of
everybody
the
picked
in-season
the
tournament. In-season tournament. Did they really?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of Pacer picking.
But Dame goes absolutely bonkers in that first half.
Mm-hmm.
The Pacers settling in the second. I mean, they were down by 30, and it was a 15-point game.
Yeah, it was.
Right?
I mean, they got back in it, air quotes, because the Bucks decided to play prevent offense.
Would you put Indiana at 2, or who would be number 2 for you in the panic rankings? Because I'm not even going to count Miami. Miami's panic would be: do they lose this? Do they get swept in 4 games and lose by 100 total points in this series?
I think the next closest panic, even though they're a play-in team, is the Pelicans, because they're also, and it has less to do with this series and more about the finality of what this team is going to be. There is so much noise about Brandon Ingram getting traded in the offseason. Like if I'm betting money on players getting traded in the offseason, I'm putting a stack of cash on Trae Young, number 1, and the next biggest stack is on Brandon Ingram.
Yeah. I think it feels like Atlanta is done with Trae Young.
Trae Young's done with Atlanta.
3 months, it's felt like that has been the conversations that have been brewing around the NBA.
But on New Orleans front, they have some CJ McCollum fatigue. Although CJ played relatively well, he played a whole hell of a lot better than Ingram. Ingram was cheeks. I mean, he was non-existent. Lou Dort put him in the torture chamber and beat the hell out of him. All game long.
Greatest nickname.
All game long. And if they're not going to call fouls and like they are right now, that favors a guy like him because he is just going to maul you and wear you out because he is so big and so strong and so physical. He just sits there and just beats you to death. And Ingram, even if they are calling him, they can't call all of them. And he's not physical enough to deal with it. And I think you're looking at, oh crap, because the notes coming out of New Orleans before the play-in, and when New Orleans kind of came through town, I was kind of asking around the organization, there's a belief that Zion has done enough to earn David Griffin's trust to be the guy going forward. Because of how he played over basically 4 months.
Well, he did that, but then he got hurt again.
Yes, it is. But I think they're out entirely on Ingram. Like, I think they're just like he's a perfectly fine player, but he's not. He's the Tobias Harris of wings.
He is playing like a guy who has fallen out of favor with the front office, and he knows it. Because we see this every so often in the playoffs, where there is a guy that that time is run out, and all of a sudden it's just not there. Confidence is gone. You're just sitting there looking, I-5 eyes looking down the road, going, I don't know. And that was one of the things that Klay Thompson had talked about, like trying to stay present and trying to stay in the moment, knowing that big changes are coming is a really hard thing to do as a player. Brandon Ingram, it appears that he's going through that too. And it wasn't just last night. It was in the play-in as well.
The first play-in game, he was a disaster.
Yeah.
And again, he's coming off an injury, so you kind of give it a little bit. But this is who he's always been. He's a good player. Again, he's not crappy. He's a good player, but he's not that guy. And I think you're going to look at, like, teams are looking at that going, I don't want to give him the max. I don't want to be the team that gives him that full max.
No, somebody will, though. Somebody's dumb enough to do it.
That's the thing is, I don't think I think with the new CBA, I think you're going to see
all right.
teams pushing back, and this is going to be interesting when that comes up. But I think they're the second most afraid team because of what it means for them going forward. Two teams at very different paths in Phoenix and New Orleans. One has no path. One has a lot of paths because they have Trey Murphy, because they have Herb Jones, because they have CJ McCollum, because they have Zion, because they have BI, because they have all of these pieces. They can do a lot versus the Suns where they have no chance but other than trade Kevin Durant.
How worried are we about the Magic?
They're on schedule. I think they're fine.
Yeah.
I think even if they get swept, that's the rite of passage for young teams.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
83 points is tough.
It is.
I
But
think it brings up value for if Orlando is going to trade for a creator, a scorer,
Shooting
a shooter.
guard?
It's driving up that value for those other teams that have those guys on their roster right now.
I saw a tweet from one of the big Heat accounts about Tyler Herro because, they're rumored for another star, Donovan Mitchell. The tweet was something like, "Don't worry, Cleveland, he's not usually like this." Talking about Tyler Herro.
The funny ones were the vitriol towards Joe Cronin last night and yesterday as Hero gets absolutely bodied in that game against Boston, and then Dame goes off, and they're still upset at Joe Cronin for not just giving Miami fans whatever they wanted to just be like, oh, yeah, you can have Damian Lillard.
Sure.
There was a lot of F Joe Cronin, and I was just like, yeah, you're mad at the guy for doing his job.
Yeah, real quick for anybody who wanted to check in on that. Nikola Jovic, 3 of 9, was a -25. Tyler Herro, 4 of 13, 3 of 9 from 3, -12 for 11 points. And Duncan Robinson, 2 of 4, 5 points, and a -9 in 15 minutes of action, otherwise known as the Damian Lillard trade package.
Yikes.
Womp, 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 womp.
Boston looks really good, though.
Yeah. I mean, Boston and Denver are going to buzzsaw through their first rounds.
Yeah.
Like, if you're talking about the teams that are the least worried, right now it's those two.
Yeah. And Laker fans, probably because LeBron's like taking a look at the room and going, oh boy.
If you want to add a honorable mention to also worried, Philadelphia. Because of
just
Embiid's
because
knee.
of Embiid. I think if Embiid is okay and those were just scares, even though he plays so dumb. Like knowing your knee is upset.
That hyperextension, you're like, oh, dude.
There was a moment in the fourth quarter of that game where he comes like barreling over, and Josh Hart, I think, Brunson, like fell to the ground and was like the whistle had been blown, and Embiid is still moving towards him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and then he had to short stop, and then you saw him grab his knee. And I was like, what are you even doing? Why even run towards that ball? You know that a whistle is coming
because you can't turn it off.
You
can't turn it off.
But that's why he always gets hurt. Super frustrating.
Yeah, that's when you're 7'1", 350 pounds. That's what happens.
Dems to breaks, huh? Dems to breaks.
Quite literally.
I think that Knicks Sixers series can be really stinky.
If
good.
Embiid is healthy, that series is going to go at least 6, probably 7.
If anybody can shoot for Orlando, that series can be really fun.
It was still fun. Like, don't get me wrong, I still picked it as my favorite series to watch because it's two younger teams with a lot of bigs, and it's going to get ugly, and you kind of figure out things that are happening and like adjustment wise that are super fun. But it's more for the sickos.
Mavs Clippers can be really fun.
That's
throw that that first game, throw it out.
Yeah.
Or that first half rather. Throw that first half out. Give me what we saw in the second half, and we got ourselves a really damn fun series. I think Indiana Milwaukee can be fun if Dame just continues to go nuclear. I don't know what they can do.
If they don't have another body to throw at Dame, he's going to fry them this series.
But something tells me that Indy's going to fight back like they did in the second half.
Halliburton's not going to be as passive.
Thunder Pelicans can be fun if there still are a little bit more jitters from OKC. It looked like they settled in, though, especially in that third quarter. They looked a lot more comfortable.
If both teams hit shots in a game, too, that's what's going to be interesting because they both shot like crap from
doo-doo,
three.
baby.
Real quick on that final possession
or
quasi-final possession, the Pelicans, what the hell were they doing? The one where they rushed 4 straight shots, got 4 offensive rebounds. It was like, what are you doing?
I mean, there's a lot of weird coaching type stuff.
I don't think it was coaching.
Just dumb.
It was just Because you had guys out there who were experienced.
Well, and then you had the Knicks refusal, or the 76ers refusal to foul the Knicks at the end of the game. It was a 5-point game.
Yeah,
And they don't foul to try to create extra possessions and opportunities.
And the Pelicans went for a quick 2, and
Weird.
it wasn't quick, and it was just like, what is...
The idea that in the first half, Indiana was like, we're just going to let Dame just go. TJ McConnell, good luck, pal.
Carlisle's a great adjustment guy, but he sometimes waits a game and not a half to make adjustments, and that... Ugh.
And then the adjustment was, we're just going to leave Chris Middleton.
Yeah.
We're just going to let him just go.
That and they also...
We're going to go ahead and do that.
They had a stretch where both Halliburton and Siakam were off the floor together. And it just can't happen in the playoffs, which is kind of weird for Carlisle to do that, but,
And then you had Jason Kidd just staring off into the abyss in the first half, like, save me, Luka. Save me, Kyrie. Please.
When you score 8 1/4, that'll happen.
That's brutal, dude.